No, I got to see the show back in April, and I really do need to return. But I mean, it's one of those things that's kind of cemented in my brain. But I've been listening to this, to the recording, the cast recording so much, and it's, making me want to return. And it's interesting how well I think it works as a standalone cast recording, because when I was watching it, I didn't necessarily assume that, well, because there's so much going on stage, but it's
Yeah.
actually great to sit back and just listen to it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's also one of those shows that it's certainly one of those shows that once you get the script attached to it, everything else becomes so much. All the layers are underneath it. So
Yeah.
like you can hear little bits on the soundtrack kind of things, but everything, of course, makes sense once you piece the scripts with it.
Yes. Yeah. So, if you wouldn't mind just taking me back a little bit to when the performer in you kind of first manifested itself, and I hear that you did a performance of Karma Chameleon sort of way back at nursery school, which sounds amazing. Was that kind of a sort of boy? Were you sort of dressed as Boy George, or was that kind of?
They full on, this was in nursery school. They put me in like lots of like hair and makeup, sort of like the boy character, and like yeah, and I did that. I mean, I had been singing since I was in a high chair. So I mean, so like my mom has memories of me. There was a song, like I forget who it's by, that was like too late baby baba. And when I was a child, when I was a baby, apparently I was in the high chair thinking they were talking about my bottle. And so I would say like too late, baby baba, like my baba, my bottle. So yeah, I've been doing it since I could.
Yes. And tell me a little bit about when Michael R. Jackson first got in touch with you about A Strange Loop, when it was still kind of workshop stage, because I believe that was sort of a Facebook message. He sort of found you on.
Michael slid into my DMs. Um, yeah, I got a Facebook message from Michael, basically saying, I got your name from a colleague slash friend, and wanted to know if you might be interested in doing a reading of a project that I've just am going to be doing a reading of at Music Theater Factory. And he included some like clips of the things of some of his music, just so I could get a gist of what his voice was like as a writer. And I took a look at the clips. And my first instinct was, oh gosh, this is like really abrasive. Some of this language is like really a lot more aggressive than things that people are putting out there. This is not the kind of language that you typically hear in, standard Broadway. And because of that, I was like, you know what? This guy is gutsy and like is raw and is he seems like he is unapologetic in the what he wants to say. And I'm all about supporting writers who have a solid point of view, and who are actively sort of jumping into, saying the things that they want to say. So I was like, let's see, I'll jump in, let's see what we get out of this.
So that was back in 2015, wasn't
That
it?
was in
Yeah.
2015.
So is it the same sort of things that intrigued you then that still sort of excite you about the piece now and make you, be able to get up and put so much energy into it, like eight shows a week?
Sure. I mean, as any relationship lasts, there are layers and there are growth. There's a lot of growth. And I think my relationship certainly has shifted with the piece greatly. I'm still extremely proud of Michael's POV and the importance of the story that Michael wrote. It is a very specifically, like the lens is very specific. It is about a gay black man, and this particular gay black man, and sort of the different demons and sort of uh, uh, thoughts that he has to sort of wrestle with in his head. And I think it's my relationship has shifted, not shifted, but has evolved. Just, I mean, greatly as a result of my transitioning through this piece, through the lifetime of this piece. And so sort of every time I've come back to the piece along the way, I have been that much more comfortable sort of in my own womanhood and in my own space. And it certainly makes my relationship with the piece a bit different. And sort of how I feel as a Black woman inside of the piece is there's a lot of conversations that really need to be had within the communities. So like within the Black community, there are many conversations that need to be had with gay men in the community and with everyone else. There's a lot of resentment and sort of feelings of oppression and feelings of pushing away that have to do, I think, a lot of times with misunderstanding and not great communication. But I think that that's sort of one of the beautiful things about the piece, is that it does give an opportunity for people to have some of those conversations.
Yes. And I saw coming up on October 27th, which is a Thursday, I think, Bob the Drag Queen is going to be hosting a big Black and queer night, and which is open to everybody. But I think
Right.
they're particularly encouraging Black and queer or Black and or queer folks to come along and really engage with the piece. What are your thoughts on that? Doing that as a night.
I think it's important. I think it's great to have. I also think an evening that's sort of a typical sort of Black theater night evening would also be really great to have. That's not specifically queer aimed. That's just Black aimed. Does not mean that only Black people come to the theater. It means that it's just another one of those kinds of nights that's sort of also celebrating Blackness. I think in this piece in particular, that's really useful. Because also our audiences typically are, very much the standard Broadway audiences, which tend to skew white. And so as a result of that, it's a lot of doing this show in front of audiences that greatly don't look like us, and who I think are like so desperately listening to understand and kind of get what's going on. But even through the development process of the show, it was always helpful to have people in the audience who really who inherently like get sort of the experience of Blackness inside of the piece, and like find it necessary, and find it like find the what's the word I'm looking for, they find it like they laugh, they respond, they because they understand where the stories are coming from, and because they get it like in a way that many people, either their own families or they know people's families who are like this, or know people who are experiencing this, they inherently respond so much more freely. And I think one of the things in this show with audiences that don't have people who are ready to sort of in some ways give permission to everyone else to respond, if that's not there, I do think that sometimes people might feel the want to respond but aren't sure if it's okay that they do. And so it's really nice when you have like a Black theater night or a Black and queer night, where folks hopefully will just get it. We had a Black theater night when we did the show at Playwrights off Broadway. And it was one of my favorite shows just because people were actually so vocal, so excited about it. And we love that rush of energy coming at us when we're doing the show. It really makes things cook. So yeah. So I mean, I think it's important.
And you mentioned that this story is through a very specific lens, but the stage that you came up on the piece at, were you able to bring like some of your own experience and some of yourself to some of the the characters that you play as Thought One?
Sure. I mean, I think you always bring yourself to the work you're doing. So I am certainly, variations of me are certainly inside of the thing. And the sort of gift with being a part of a show through development is that you get to see all of the scripts that get thrown out. And so in particular for my sympathetic ear patron, I sort of have compiled sort of all of the things that were in many of the old scripts. They're still in her. There are elements of her talking about her sensuality and the things that make her excited and the things that she didn't get to do and sort of where her life is. There were a lot of variations on what that scene was sort of throughout the development. So I've kept all of those things for myself just to kind of really fill in the blanks of who she is, because so much of the show oh gosh. I thought this was locked. Hold on, let's see. There we go.
It's live.
Ah,
It's
yeah,
live.
I was like, live. um, so much. I think it should stay now. So much of the show is written sort of with characteristics and sort of I want to say broad strokes, and sort of it's left to the actor to fill in the color. And so I think the gift of being with the project through development is just I've gotten a chance to see lots of options of colors to put in the mix, and so I've sort of been able to bring those things, and that's inherently going to bring me to the work as well.
Yes, and I love that that led to the Tony nomination, that people could see that rich work there. And one thing I find kind of interesting with that character, the sympathetic ear, who's the theater goer, and you know, she loves The Lion King and she loves Wicked. And I think when we first encounter her, we might sort of like, you know, just judge her and be like, oh, we know who that, and to kind of dismiss her. So it's
I lean
been
into
more.
that too.
Sorry.
I said I lean into that a
Yeah.
bit too. I want you to think that she's just going to be another person torturing Usher.
Mm.
And then there's the switch where you're like, oh wait, no, she's not actually. This woman has had a certain kind of life and is sharing like warmth to him. Finally, someone is giving to Usher and not expecting anything in return.
Yes. And I think it sort of just reminds us that, you know, not to assume that we know who someone is just from, you know, what we see on the surface.
Absolutely.
You know, and that like that inspiration and just encouragement, it does often come from quite unexpected places and strangers as well, doesn't it? Sometimes I don't know, you know, when we remember these things of like, oh, that person said that to me, and it's so like gets ingrained, but it's maybe someone we just encountered once.
Yeah, we love that. We love that she gets to tell her little moment, and then she gets to walk off stage and into her life. In the old versions, she died.
Oh, really?
I'm laughing. I was like, she died. No, but in the old versions, she had a heart attack in that
Oh,
scene,
wow.
and actually, she in one of the versions, it was or in a lot of the old versions, she actually slipped. She was much older.
Right.
She slipped on vomit that some child had done. And so she slipped on vomit and then was singing that to Usher as she's laying in vomit. Then she proceeds to have a heart attack and dies. So
Right.
I think we realized that. I think the team realized that we didn't need all that.
And I like that I'm glad that the Golden Girls reference made it, because I think that immediately kind of makes us warm to her as well, doesn't it, when we hear that? And then maybe we're still at the stage when we're sort of like maybe just laughing at her a little bit, and then it builds. One of my the lines that sticks in my head is the Dorothy, Blanche, Sophia, and Rose. It's just so sweet.
There was a day on stage. There was a day on stage when we were at Playwrights that I actually like went up on the line, and like on that line of all things. And so I said like Dorothy, Blanche, Cassia, and Rose. And I was like, who is Cassia? And so one of the other thoughts for my opening night present on Broadway gave me this little teddy bear with a necklace that says Cassia.
And I think thought one and Drumroll, you probably are the have the lines that are most encouraging, would you say, of Usher? Yeah. What do and is
sort
that
of throughout, because and they're always set up in a like, oh no, this is gonna be another one who is torturing, but there's always that little switch. My woman in the Guardians scene also is like, I like your piece. I'm the one person who enjoys your piece. I mean, I think there's things you need to fix, but I enjoy it. And like, I want you to ask yourself the questions of, you know, why does this piece need exist in the world?
yes.
Which is actually something Elle Morgan would ask as well. So I think that's something that I would also ask of most pieces is, do we actually need this piece today? Why do we need it?
Yes. Because you teach as well, don't you? And I think that probably that sounds a bit like perhaps the teacher in you of the
Yeah, well,
like,
I coach a little bit and I direct a little.
right.
So it's like one of the things that I'm certainly I am always curious about new things. I think we are very thirsty for new work. We want to see new things. We need to see new things. I'm certainly trying to develop some things as well. And like the biggest question is always, do we need this today? And if so, why do we need it? Because if you actually don't know why, and it's just about money or just about, oh, well, people will like it, it's like, well, that, I mean, I guess you could do that, but you could also spend that energy really doing something that's going to give to society a little bit more.
Yes. And is the women something that you're still working on developing? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I am. I have not picked it up in a bit, but it's definitely on my list of things to be readdressing. I Over the pandemic, I got an opportunity to work on a piece that's sort of a response to the Claire Booth Luce play, The Women. The whole thing really began because I was supposed to do a reading of The Women, potentially, with an organization that was going to show it on YouTube. It sort of was like a live play situation. But number one, the cast is enormous. And then just really looking into the play, I just kept thinking, like, I don't know that the ending of this play is really what we need today. I don't while there are women whose experiences do go in this direction, and there are women who do spend years pining after their love, the love that was lost. I don't know that that's what we need to see today. And so I was like, well, how can I be a part of creating something that does give voice to the various experiences of being a woman today? And so the Raja Feather Kelly, who choreographed A Strange Loop, and I had been having conversations about other things, and through the development of Strange Loop, he kept saying things like, I want to work with you on something. I want to work with you on something. And so I was like, well, can you direct this reading of whatever piece we do in this reading? And since that reading fell through, Raja was like, well, but what else would you want to do? Like, if you just had your druthers, what do you want to do? And so I started talking to him a bit about this piece. And I wanted to sort of pull together a group of writers, just a crew of writers, and have them all, the writers being people who understand directly what it means to be a woman in the world, or what it means to have the expectations of womanhood on top of you. So that includes people who are trans women, that includes cis women, that includes non-binary humans. It includes people who might have been assigned female at birth, and who understand what the world wants you to be, versus what you are. So it's a lot of, it's just a moment to sort of ask, are there things that you can say to what it means to be a woman in the world? Or what does it mean to have the expectations of womanhood on top of you today? And so that piece it was a group of writers put together, and we got to do like a first step kind of a look with Ars Nova here in New York City, in a sort of series that they put together. And Raja had like a creative director slot, basically. And so he asked me if I would like for that to be one of the things that he sort of plugs into his creative director slot. And so I would certainly like to continue working on The Women. It will not be called that anymore. I do think that there will be a new title, and I'm looking to maybe like flesh out a few of the pieces a little bit more, so that it's a little bit, it's a slightly different take at it. There's also an idea that I'd love to make it a series, like a television series.
Right.
Because it could be something really beautiful to just have it constantly going, sort of an episodic situation with just a new story each episode.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, especially with streaming as well, there's so many opportunities,
exactly,
to have like these rich stories where we do get to spend like an episode with a different character or something like that.
Yeah, and it'll be beautiful because then you can bring in another writer for each episode, another director, another group of actors, and it just allows sort of what it means to have conversations about womanhood constantly evolving season. Like, I think the idea of it would be really cool. So we'll see.
Yes. And you said in one interview recently that Broadway has a lot of work to do, and I just wondered, maybe especially now that you've had your Broadway debut, you're currently doing that, and with the experience you might have had with your Tony nomination too, what are some of the ways that you would like, what work needs to be done, I guess, essentially?
Oh, well, I mean, it's certainly, I have my opinion, so it's just my
Yeah, exactly. What does in yeah, L. Morgan Lee's opinion, what needs to be done? What kind of Broadway would you like to see building and evolving?
Yeah, I would love to see a Broadway that number one, that care is put into the people who are doing the shows, 8 shows a week. So that, and it's difficult because commercial theater itself is a beast. Commercial theater itself is about bottom dollar, making money, getting people in the seats. But I think that there are ways that can still be put into the making of that thing and that can still be placed into the culture of those buildings, that will allow the people who are, going at it 8 shows a week to feel supported and to feel appreciated and to feel valued in the process, and sort of not like sort of parts of a machine, because it is ultimately a machine in many ways, but we are humans. And so I think that it would be really beautiful to see a Broadway that has started to really figure out how to also make those pieces of the machine always feel important and feel necessary. The sensibility that, everyone is dispensable is not the kind of thinking that helps that move forward.
Mhm.
That's certainly a big element of something that I would like to see on Broadway. I'd love to see more teams being responsible about the stories that they're telling. If you are telling a story that comes from an intersection of people that you are not a part of, or that you don't know, or that you aren't able to be the one sharing about, that you bring those people in the room and that you have those people present in the storytelling if it is truly that important to tell this story. Again, that question comes up of, why do we need this? It's like, if we need to hear this story, then it is an opportunity for more folks to stand out of the way a little bit and step aside and allow the people who know these stories, who live them every day, to be a part of that storytelling with you. I mean, that's also a big thing. I mean, I want to see a Broadway where, people have made comments about, me being a trailblazer, which is really an uncomfortable and crazy idea to me, but I understand it. But I want to see a world where my just standing on stage is not enough for that. I want it to be not enough that you have someone from marginalized or underrepresented groups on stage, but that you're actually seeing a culture and an industry where you're hearing a lot of voices from those marginalized groups as well. Delivery at the stage door. Sorry.
We're backstage, everyone.
Yes, we are backstage. We are in my pleasant little dressing room. But yeah, I think it's that is certainly the Broadway I want to see. I mean, because I think that ultimately we all want to do great work. We are all artists. I hope we all love what we're doing, and we all also know the possibilities that Broadway can have. Broadway has such a great reach. So many people here, and they come to the city for Broadway specifically. So I'd love to see a Broadway where we're able to get everything from really fluffy, chewing gum kind of shows, bubble gum kind of shows, all the way through really deep and impactful pieces, and all of which are showing a beautiful array of humans and experiences and lives. I mean, you have this flag behind you. It's it'd be beautiful to see the Broadway where we don't even need to post the flag because everything's so represented.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And when it comes to casting, I know you're involved in the Danish Girl, and we can find online a beautiful version of Silk. I think the song is, isn't it, that we got to hear that was released. And I believe with the casting of that, it was done on vocal range and not to do with gender in terms of the ensemble.
Sure. Yeah, they are. I think that is the idea, is certainly to fill in vocal parts and to try not to push sort of gender norms on things. Now, there are roles, there are people who need to play certain roles throughout. And I do think that there is certainly people sort of keeping in mind that as they're casting. But I think part of the mission is to try to do the casting thing in the most affirming way possible, so that there can be an assortment of genders within the cast as well. Because the way that the story is set up is very much a like group of storytellers who are telling the story, and so the storytellers are able to take on lots of things.
And can I ask you for your favorite piece of LGBTQ plus culture? So that could either be a theater piece or a book, a TV show, a
Mm.
movie, music, artwork, photography, anything culture,
Ooh.
or a person who identifies as LGBTQ plus. So someone or something that's had an impact on you and kind of resonated with you.
Oh wow. Oh God, that could go in so many directions. Um, I'm gonna say the first thing that's coming to mind. That's such a random thing to pop into my head right now. Um, an author named Elin Harris wrote a series of books. Um, and there was, I believe, the first book was called Invisible Life. And that's coming to mind right now. I have so many answers for that, but this minute, that is what's coming to mind. Invisible Life by Elin Harris. It's a book, and that book, I had it in high school. I saw someone else. I heard someone else reading it. I went to an arts high school, so I heard someone else reading it, and I like snuck it in my backpack, and like as well snuck my own copy in my backpack. I like stole their book. No, no, I snuck it in my backpack, and I would keep it in my locker at school because I was nervous to bring the book home because I didn't know what my mom or dad would think about my mom, but what my mom would think about me reading this book. Um, and I got through like a bunch of the series in that way, sort of secretly. Like sometimes I'd sneak it home and read it in bed at night, but like I was a teenager. But just there were conversations. The books were juicy and like it's sort of like a combination of like kind of it's like a soap opera basically. Yeah, but they existed around this black gay man and a relationship that he was in, and there was also a woman that he was dating as well. Um, and this sort of the trio of things that was this sort of triangle of things that was happening. I have to go back and read those books again. I'm curious about what I think about them today.
And isn't it interesting how I can completely remember myself reading a book that I thought, well, I don't necessarily want people to see that, or if they see it, they'll immediately know or read a lot
Sure.
into that.
There'll be lots of questions that suddenly I'll be being asked that I don't know that I'm ready to answer. I could say another one right off because it's hard for me to just say that one.
Yes.
The other one is certainly Our Lady J, who is a musician and also a writer now. She was always a songwriter, certainly. But I sang backup vocals for Our Lady J many years ago. Um, when we were children. Um, and it was honestly some of the most touching music I've ever sung. Like really beautiful. And I say that Our Lady J was the first trans person that I met. And I think that like the universe has a funny way of introducing us to people. And it's not lost on me that her music is some of the most touching music I've ever been a part of or been able to sing in some ways. And so it's lovely. I got to reconnect with her recently. She came and saw the show. And like it was just really like a very special moment for me to get to reconnect with her and like realizing like, oh my gosh, no, you were the first transhuman I met. And like I think it's a full circle that I'm just very like grateful for.
And it makes me think, I just wanted to ask you about some of the interactions that you've been having, maybe at stage door or just sort of after the show, where I'm sure you were probably having a similar impact on some of the people coming to see you that Our Lady J maybe had on you those years ago. And what have some of those interactions been like?
It's wild. I don't, it's not something that you even realize, which I think is really beautiful. We had the Broadway flea market fairly recently. And there was a young person who came up to me and like, she was just kind of, she mentioned something that I'd said. And like, she was saying like, she had seen the show and she was having some issues sort of trying to figure out her, sexuality. And she was sort of just kind of struggling with it. And I said to her, I was like, just what came to mind to say was like, honey, stop struggling, just be. Like, we have so much on our backs. We have so much that we are experiencing every day that we actually could be struggling with. If we can allow ourselves the chance to just take a breath in whatever we are or feel today, then like that's going to give us a little more breath than we might have had the day before. And that is like really important, especially in the world we live in right now, where people are so prone and like primed up to hate things and to disagree with things and to argue and complain about things. It's like the last thing that we should have to be struggling with or dealing with a lot of negative feelings about is our own spirits and our own hearts. um and so I was like, just try to stop struggling and just let yourself breathe. You're so young. Like, just let yourself breathe. Just be what you need to be today. Whatever you are meant to be or supposed, it will all settle in when it needs to, and the timing that it needs to. We are in a period, we're in a generation that likes this instant gratification. It's like, I have to know what it is today, right now. It's like, well, that ain't how it works sometimes. Sometimes it takes a little time to settle in. But then she popped up in a live that I did the other day and was like, I was so touched by that, and mentioned it, and I was like, oh gosh, I was just chatting with you. Like, I didn't even realize that like whatever I said made a difference for you. And it's cool because you'll have people that come and see the show who will be like, we saw you on the Tonys, and I am queer, or I'm trans, or I'm non-binary, or I'm gender expansive in some way, and or my child is. My favorites, my absolute favorites, are when a parent of a trans kid comes to see the show with their kid or with like the teenager, and like just seeing like examples of things we don't see enough of. We don't nearly see enough examples of trans kids with supportive parents who love them and who are just trying to figure out who the parents are, let alone who their child is. They're trying to figure out, how can I be the best parent to my child? How can I show my child the kind of love that this kid needs to have, in a world that tells this kid that they're crazy or wrong or not understanding themselves or delusional? How do I be the best parent I can be? And I think it's really beautiful. Whenever that gets to happen, whenever I step outside and there's like a parent and their queer or trans child, I am touched.
Yeah, something that gives us hope for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I bet that was a very meaningful interaction, and even you talking about that, taking a moment to breathe, has made my shoulders relax a little.
Ah,
So hopefully, some other people watching it might need to hear that too, and it'll do the same for them.
when trans people are free, everyone is free.
Yes. Well, Elle Morganley, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. And
Thank you.
folks haven't seen A Strange Loop yet, they need to buy the tickets and go and see it. And if they have seen it like me, they need to go back and experience it again.
Yeah, and if you're Black and queer, show up on the 27th.
Yes, with Bob the drag queen. Yeah,
Yeah.
who's always great and very insightful. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you.